don't see that getting through Congress.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen either.
As long as the filibuster is in place, which would allow delaying the legislation in the Senate, it won't happen. But even without that, it would be hard to get that through Congress. I mean, I think there's some folks, some Democrats that wouldn't want to do it. So I don't really see it happening.
I mean, I know plenty of Democrats with guns.
Yeah.
One of them's going to be at my wedding. I'm a Democrat. I have a lot of guns.
Me too.
Welcome to the Bass Reeves Gun Club podcast, where we discuss all things firearm and shooting sports. I'm your host, Antonio Hicks, and I'm excited to bring you the latest news, tips, tricks, and historic discussions about guns in the minority community. We are a pro-Second Amendment community of responsibly armed citizens, and we take pride in learning and sharing our knowledge within the community. So whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out, this podcast is for you. So sit back, relax, and let's dive in.
Could be it's the only thing they have, and they're trying to get into
hunting.
hunting.
If you're, if you have hunting as your source of how to feed yourself and feed your family, you're going to use whatever you have.
Right. Yeah, I don't think their first weapon of choice is going to get an AR-15. Because they would have grew up having a bolt-action rifle anyway.
I'm not a hunter either. From what I understand, from what I've heard from other people, you can use it for that because, for the distance and all that, you could do it. But from what I understand, most folks use shotguns or bolt-action rifles for hunting. Again, I think going back to what Cassandra was saying, I think the use case is typically self-defense, home defense for an AR-15. But again, if civilization falls, my rifle's going to be used for a lot of things.
Right.
Right.
I don't really have a lot of options.
It's multifunctional.
Here's what I have. Here's what it can do.
Pillow,
We're going to make
my friend.
Yeah, what was his name? Tom Hanks from the ball. Oh my God. So how do you safely use an AR-15?
How do you safely use it?
Yeah, how do you safely use one?
You use it safely like you would any other weapon. You make sure you're not pointing at anything you don't wish to destroy. Your fingers off the trigger. AR-15s do have a physical safety on them, so turning that safety on to make sure, gun's not going off. And just making sure you have the awareness and education to actually be using that platform. Knowing how you hold it, but just your basic safety fundamentals will keep you from, with any firearm, will keep you from having any issues.
Mm-hmm. So when I first started getting into firearms, I had friends in college that had guns, and we'd go out and shoot every once in a blue moon. But aside from don't put the pointy end towards me, that there was no safety in that, and it was just 10 seconds of here's how you manipulate the firearm. And then once I became a Bass Reeves member, then I started learning about, quality holsters and, these are the techniques you need to use to shoot, and then the safety aspect of it. And so when I first got my AR, I didn't shoot it for probably a month, but every other night I would sit there and rack the slide, pull the bolt back, just play around with it so I could get used to how it functioned. Because the first time somebody handed me an AR, it wouldn't fire because the safety was on. I had no idea how to turn it off.
I think to piggyback on what Marcus and Cassandra were saying, rifles have the, I won't say complications, I guess that's the word I'm going to use, is that you have to put some sort of sight on it, whether it's iron sights or a dot, and it has to be zeroed. So there's that aspect to it. I think another way to make sure you use it safely is to put a sling on it, right? The sling is basically the rifle equivalent of a holster. That's been pretty much drilled into me that you want to sling them and let them hang. When we're not shooting, to make sure that everybody's safe. That is the equivalent of a holster. So that's the only things I would add is that you need a sling to use a rifle safely and to shoot accurately, which I think also plays into safety. You need some sort of iron sights or a dot to shoot it safely, shoot it accurately.
Yeah, I think the same thing applies from a handgun to a shotgun, applies across the board to everything. It's like, don't point at nothing that you don't plan on shooting. Keep your finger off the trigger. I think it's one of the things that annoyed me, like sidebar about the little Tyler Perry movie that just came out. I don't know if y'all saw that. I can't even think of the name of it.
I haven't seen it.
And the dad got his daughter a shotgun, and they was playing with it on the island, and it was just pointed at everybody in the room, and I couldn't shut up. My wife was like, "Would you stop?" And I was like, "That is not
Can't help
proper."
Can't help it.
Once you know how to be safe and you see somebody not being safe, you're
Yeah.
like, oh no, why are you doing this that way?
I look at TV a whole different way.
Different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man.
I can't stand seeing teacup, and
Yeah.
that just drives me crazy.
Yeah, everyone's not John Wick either.
No.
Absolutely not.
No. They try to be, but yes, no. So why do you think mass shooters often choose an AR-15?
I just think it's because they see it more. You know, they see it in the movies, they see it in the news, they hear people talking about it.
Video games.
Video games is a big one as well,
Call of
right?
Duty.
That's a big platform. And it's also, because it's such a common platform, it's also, walk into a gun store, you're going to see an AR-15,
Right.
you know, right? That's going to be available for you to buy. So I just think because it's more common and because they can get the ammo for it, it's just easier for them to use. I think if other things were flipped and AK-47s were more common and more seen in the news and more seen in movies and more seen in video games, then that would be the choice. I just think it's a familiar thing for them.
Yeah,
If those were easily accessible, absolutely. But they aren't easily accessible.
right. And you look at a lot of video games like Call of Duty, you have a ton of different rifles that you can pick from when you're playing multiplayer. You got your M4A1, you've got your, I can't even remember what they're called. You've got foreign manufacturers, domestic manufacturers of all the firearms that are in the game. You can choose from a bunch of different things. And a lot of people, if they're wanting to do something and they watch TV, assault rifle, and they talk to family that's not in guns, oh, the assault rifle, the AR-15 is, why do we sell that? That's a weapon of war and so on. And they just go, oh, I'm going to do something bad. Let me walk into a gun store and get this because I know this thing exists because it's been drilled into me.
I also noticed too that they tend to, like in their headlines and things, just to like grab people's attention, is they'll use the AR-15 before they use a person's name or something like that. They'll say
Right.
AR-15 used in a shooting, right? Instead of saying, terrible person commits mass shooting. It's AR-15 in mass shooting, right? So now you're not only taking away from the person that committed this terrible crime on people, but you're also adding more light to and familiarity to this gun. Again, because they see it more, because they hear it more, in social media and by people that they look up to, that's more likely to be used. There's a reason that like serial killers or killers in general, right, that the media, they will use their names in the media as a way to get more people to buy their stuff. But police don't like using their names because that bolsters that killer. It bolsters that serial killer into wanting more fame and to do it again so that they can get their name in the media and have their, 15 minutes of fame. And it's the same thing with these shootings, right? These people are out here committing a crime and committing atrocities, but they also know that they're going to have their 15 minutes of fame, whether or not they're alive or not.
Right.
They're going to get it because the news is going to make it so.
Right.
I would say that all those things are true, but you got a Daniel or a BCM like I have. Those are efficient tools to kill a lot of people. We can't gloss over it like it's not, right? They are effective.
I mean, they are effective, but like I was saying earlier, you could also walk into a gun store, get same length barrel, same caliber, same magazine capacity, and it doesn't look like a black scary weapon. And I think some of these mass shooters, they're thinking, I'm probably not going to survive this, whatever. I'm going to shoot people. I'm going to use something that I know is going to get attention. And the answer for that, as far as the media is concerned, is AR-15 all day.
Yeah.
But you are correct. In the wrong hands, any weapon can be detrimental, kill a lot of people, especially in the hands of someone that actually does have some kind of skill and knowledge of what they are doing. Do I think that that means that we should punish the larger group of people that are actually responsible gun owners and aren't having any kind of thoughts about hurting people or any bad intents? No, I don't think we should punish those people or limit those people. I'm not going to call it punishment. I'm going to call it limiting those people because these select few people are choosing to make a, horrible decision.
I agree. I'm not for banning them. I am for making them a bit harder to get. I don't have a problem saying that. I'd be okay with raising an age limit or more of a in-depth background check, a few more hoops to go through to get it. I'd be okay with that. But a ban, no.
Okay. So for the age, right? So I've always had a particular issue when people choose, they just say like a number. They say 18's a number or 21's a number or 30's the number, right? But why is that number the number? There are, just as many people that are legally able to have these weapons that are doing the right thing within those age groups. There's a small percentage of those people that would be selecting to not do it correctly. So us moving up the age by 5, I don't know, I think that just limits people from getting the guns that are doing the correct thing versus preventing the people that are trying to do it incorrectly. Because all those people need to do is say, oh, I'm not old enough to get this platform, I'll just use this platform instead. Instead of having a AR rifle that has 30 rounds, I'll just make sure I have 2 Glock 17s that give me more rounds than that one AR-15.
Right.
No, that's
And
true.
you generally
I can't
don't hear
buy that.
about them until like mass shootings. Because we
Correct.
have gun violence every single
day.
day. But the only time you hear about an AR-15 is when a mass shooting take place. And sometimes even that's just propaganda because a person, the killer could be having multiple handguns, but that's the first thing they come up and say, oh, well, did they have an assault rifle?
And they call that an artillery.
Yes.
They got more than one gun that's artillery.
Yes.
Or they have, what's the word? They have an armory
have an
because
armory.
they have
Yeah.
more than one firearm. When somebody shot at Trump, I believe that person wasn't using an AR. I think it was some kind of 22 rifle. And I'm sure the headlines were something along the lines of, someone shoots at former President Trump. We don't know what weapon they were using. It might have been an AR or something. Like just like we're gonna make this sensational, but we're gonna keep it factually correct. But we're just gonna mention things that could be relevant, but nobody knows if they're relevant yet or not.
Even with that kind of threw me off. And I don't want to get too political on that because I was like, well, if he did have an AR-15, and let's say he did shoot a 5.56, that ear would be gone.
Yeah.
Not just a little bit of drip of.
Yeah, it wouldn't be a trickle of blood. That ear would be gone.
You'd have hearing damage and.
Yes.
Best case, he would have lost the ear.
Yeah. Yeah.
Best case scenario.
Yeah, that's a whole other.
It is. I was like,
We'll stay on.
Well, I'm just saying.
So many gun violence prevention activists feel that the AR-15 or other similar firearms should be banned, and some believe that all firearms should be banned. What do y'all think about those quotes? Because it's on the political campaign again now.
I want to jump on that one real quick. I think as far as, again, I'm against an AR ban. I think there's just too many. The cat's out of the bag at this point. There's just too many of them out there. I was telling somebody earlier, and a lot of those guns are concentrated in the hands of not only just criminals, but also, white supremacists, folks who have bad intentions towards us. I just think it's too late for that now. We're going to talk about an AR ban. We should have been talking about it. We shouldn't have let it expire in the first place. But, that's neither here nor there. What's done is done now. If they're going to have them, I want to have them. I think when people talk about, well, we're going to ban all guns, that's not a serious thing to say. Again, there's constitutional issues. The Second Amendment, along with the subsequent Supreme Court decisions, have said, hey, civilians can have guns. It's baked into the country now. That's not a serious thing to say, in my opinion. Now, if you want to talk about, again, raising the age limit or having folks jump through more hoops to get the AR to kind of stay on track, or as far as firearms in general, I'd be perfectly fine with universal background checks and red flag laws. But somebody says to me, well, we should just ban all guns. That's not somebody I really want to talk to, because that's not a serious statement, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm definitely not for banning of weapons. I'm fully for the Second Amendment and our right to buy and use those guns. While I think that, we do want to try and figure out why we have so many people that feel the need to kill people with a weapon, I don't think that increasing age limits or limiting capacities or manufacturers, anything like that, is really going to stop that. Because again, it's the intent of the individual. It's the fear that they have, or they want to instill in other people, that you can't change because of a law or a rule. Mm-hmm. I think the focus needs to be on why these people feel this way, the mental health part of it, on that end, and then on the people that are actually doing it responsibly is making sure that they're educated. Because sometimes some of these negligent shootings, right, it's just people not educated. They're not doing it out of malice or a bad intent. A big thing that we do with Bash Reads is making sure that people understand that you're responsible for every round, right? So I would be for some kind of educational requirements, right? But that would also have to come with who's paying for that, what those requirements are, who gets to judge whether or not you are a capable gun owner versus not a capable gun owner, right? That adds on a lot more questions. I don't agree with banning. I also think that if someone tried to ban, there would be a civil war before it would ever get into law. There would be a civil war.
Again, it's the cat's out of the bag.
Right. It's not realistic to think that, would you say 44 million people with ARs, right, would just suddenly give up their guns and be like, yeah, this is cool. We're agreeing with this. You do what you want to. It's not realistic to think of that. And if we just think about the government and them doing anything logistically, it would be terrible. It wouldn't work. So yeah, I just think when people make blanket statements like that, I think they're just trying to rile people up.
Yeah. Or win over votes.
Win votes, right? Which is how they win votes. They rile people up and get them to emotionally appeal to something that they're saying. It's the people that really understand the background of why we have these weapons and why we need them for the potential, right? Not saying that the government is going to do this tomorrow, but we prepare for a potential, right? When we train and we have classes and we talk about self-defense, right? We hope that it never happens, but we're also training for if it potentially does. Because at the end of the day, the government and the military could put their thumb on us if they wanted to. Right. If they were told to do it, they could put their thumb on us.
Yeah.
And so making sure that we have some way to protect ourselves if that does happen is part of why a lot of people are gun owners. Not saying we want to, be a militia or anything like that, but we also want to be somewhat prepared for that potential situation.
Yeah, I'm all for different. Same what we have with vehicles. You have to have a different grade of license depending on what kind of vehicle you want to drive. I'm all for that with a rifle or something. So
would you be saying, like, if you wanted a pistol, you'd have to have a pistol license. If you want a rifle, you have to have a rifle license.
Yes.
Okay, gotcha. Or would it be more like, I don't know, I'm not sure what the different classes are. Like if you're driving like a regular vehicle versus like a commercial,
I think
truck,
standard vehicle is like a Class C license.
Class C, Class D, all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
And would there be like, educational requirements behind that?
Yeah, because
Skill level?
that's what I'm more concerned with, just education requirements. Not like you have to prove that you can like shoot down range or anything like that. Just making sure you understand the weapon that you have, what harm it could potentially cause. Just just the basics of the weapon itself, and just coming back in. Because I do believe that we should have to come back and start renewing the license for driving cars because a lot of people don't drive cars properly.
Yeah, I mean, how many 75-year-old people that can barely see and they get pulled over and you find out that they're legally blind because
Right.
they haven't had a driving test in 60 years?
Right.
How many people over the age of 60 have been pulling into a parking spot and hit the brake instead of the gas, or hit the gas instead of the brake?
Right.
Shot through the building, run over a bunch of people. I watched a video the other day where the guy was pulling his truck into a service bay at a dealership, and he hit the gas instead of the brake, and he went all the way through that whole like check-in area that's probably 6-7 trucks long.
Yeah.
Before he even came to a stop. And I
Or his
was,
brakes even, brake lights even came on.
Yeah.
I think he totaled his truck and slammed into somebody else, totaled their vehicle too.
Yeah, I saw one similar. He was 70 years old, and he went through a nail salon. And I won't speak anymore on that.
Yeah.
Hey man, you gotta get that manicure.
Yeah, I don't know why. Like in the political environment, they're trying to get people to go to like one side or the other. They're like, either you want a complete ban, or you just want all the guns, and you just want to have 600 guns to your name, and you just want to like that's not realistic, right? Because all of us in this room, right, are gun owners, but we're responsible, safe gun owners that care about people and don't have, bad intents. So right there, we're already disproving what they're trying to say and try to do.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's like I said, on the one hand, for my folks on the left, when they say things like "we'll just ban all guns," like, no, I don't want to. I'm not even going to have that conversation with you. Let's talk about something real here. On the other hand, folks who are just like, guns everywhere. I heard this guy say on a YouTube video that we should be able to have like full auto, weapons and everything the government has. I'm like, no, do you really trust some guy down the street?
Yeah, no.
Frank down the street with a tank.
Right, yeah.
Right.
We're in Georgia. That's
good with
Bubba.
Who's the guy that just did that? Someone just built his own
Killdozer?
tank. Yeah.
He took a bulldozer and
No.
created a weapon, and his whole deal was, it's an interesting story if somebody wants to look it up, but his whole deal was he was getting shut down by city council on something. And so he said, I'm going to build this thing, and I am going
It wouldn't
to
pass his permits and stuff.
raise as much stuff as I can, and he succeeded.
Right, and that wasn't with an AR-15 or a pistol. I mean, he
didn't even use any
own-
firearms.
He did not. They killed him with a firearm.
Yeah.
They stopped him with a firearm, actually.
So if you were ever in a conversation with people who lost loved ones due to someone with the AR-15, what would you tell them?
I don't want to go first on that one.
So no thoughts and prayers?
So I'm not a thoughts and prayers person. I would tell them that it's a shame that someone felt like that the need to use that AR-15 to take someone's life, that I was sorry for their loss and that kind of thing. And depending on how they felt about like the AR-15, right? Because some people they go two different ways when something like that happens. Either they go, we need those guns to protect ourselves so we can prevent someone from doing this in the future, or they go, we need to get rid of all guns because this could happen in the future, right? That's just where their brains are going to go naturally. But making sure that they know that people care about them and care that something like that happened and that it was an atrocious crime would be the first thing on my list of things to say to them.
Yeah, I don't know how to answer that question either. I mean, I wouldn't even.
Yeah.
I mean, because any form of violence to me is just sad. If you lost a loved one, I don't care if they got into a fight and somebody hit their head on the ground and they died, or somebody a robbery. You get shot with a shotgun. I mean, to me, any form of violence and you lose a loved one, I'm just sorry. And
then you have the mixed feelings. I had a cousin that was actually killed by police in DeKalb County. It's a current active case, everything. But, that situation is conflicting, right? Because you have the police that, are supposed to protect and serve, right? And then you have a police officer that was using that weapon that I use, right? That Glock, I own one, right? Was using that in a way that took my cousin's life because of either he was fearful or whatever was happening, right? That his life was taken because of that situation. Yeah, that's an interesting question. Regardless if it was an AR-15 or if it was a pistol, though, it was still something that could have been prevented.
Yeah. I think any form of gun violence, the loved one would feel triggered when it comes to the weapon itself.
And you have to respect that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So here's Cassandra, here's a question for you. If the officer that used the Glock, how do you feel about Glocks?
Oh, I still love shooting my Glock. It's not that I created a negative association with the Glock. It was more about the police officer than it was the weapon, right? I understand the weapon. I understand in the right hands, right, what it can be used for. So for me, it wasn't that. It was the decision that was made by the police officer that ended up taking his life. That was my conflict.
So for me, well, first of all, my condolences. I'm sorry for your loss, Sandra. So start there. But for me, if I was in that situation, I would start by listening and trying to meet the person where they are. I think what really disgusts me is folks who are pro-gun, quote unquote, who listen to a David Hogg and they don't respect the tragedy that he's been through. They mock him, knowing that they've never been through anything like that. I mean, you can disagree with Hogg, that's fine, but don't come at him with disrespect for his loss and his tragedy. That's wrong. So I think gun owners should listen to folks who have themselves been victims of gun violence or have lost loved ones. We need to listen to them and be respectful, even though we may disagree with their views on like banning guns and stuff like that. You can disagree with them and be respectful and empathize with their laws. Don't be like some of these jerks out here on social media.
I completely agree. That it wouldn't be an appropriate time to, try and bring them to one side or the other.
No.
Right now, you're just helping to provide the comfort or whatever they need in that moment.
Right.
So, not talk about.
Right.
Yeah. And it's always interesting when it's based around guns because other means of things are used to kill people, and that's never brought up. But when it's a weapon, they always want to bring it up and take it as, oh, we need to ban this. But I'm like, well, people get run over every day. I'm like, we have a history of being hung. We're not banning ropes.
Look, Europe, they may not have a lot of guns, but they have a lot of knife deaths.
Right.
Knife deaths, car deaths, just bare hand-to-hand deaths.
Yeah.
A lot more than we do.
Hammers.
Yeah.
I mean,
bats.
The whole unfortunate thing about firearms is that people want to lump it into either this or that's black and white, whereas just like other aspects of life, it's 4 bajillion shades of gray. If you're trying to convert somebody into coming out just to try out a firearm because they're not familiar with them at all, the technique you use for your mom isn't going to be the same technique you use for your buddy down the street. It's going to be dependent upon that individual.
Mm-hmm. So do you think the congressional assault weapons ban will be reinstated?
No, I don't see that getting through Congress.
Yeah.
I don't think that's going to happen either.
As long as the filibuster is in place, which would allow delaying the legislation in the Senate, it won't happen. But even without that, it would be hard to get that through Congress. I mean, I think there's some folks, some Democrats that wouldn't want to do it. So I don't really see it happening.
Especially not with the money that's in politics.
And then it's the lobbyists.
Yeah.
Gun manufacturers would be.
I mean, I know plenty of Democrats with guns.
Yeah.
One of them's going to be in my wedding.
You see, plenty of Democrats with guns? I mean, I'm a Democrat. I have a lot of guns.
Me too. I'm a Democrat. I have 9. I'm going to get another one this year. Yeah.
So 8 of them were pistols, and then you got the rifle.
No, the rifle was my 6th purchase. Yeah. Started with pistols, then I went to the PCCs, which that's my thing. Then the rifle.
I just love.
So some organizations endorse candidates who support the vision of gun safety, which often includes a federal ban on assault rifles. Do you think that politicians should be targeted and elected based on their views on the AR-15?
No, I'm not a one-issue voter.
Yeah.
I'm not with that. Yeah.
I can't do single issue voting. It's too important. There's so many things in this country that are important to me in terms of things like abortion and taxes and the police and things like that. There's just, I don't understand single issue voters. I can't look at a candidate and go, you do this one thing that I like and you're good.
You're out of here.
Yeah. Again, shades of gray. It's not black and white when you're trying to fill out that voting ballot.
Yeah.
I think it goes a lot of people don't pay attention to politics. I mean, they have their views that they're stuck on, but they don't think about everything else that's involved in that one particular candidate or what it takes to even pass a bill.
Yeah, exactly. That's about
complicated
to
it is.
yeah.
Think about how complicated it is. If you go to one candidate's website and try and look at all of their different stances and initiatives, but then you also have to look at what have they done previously, what have they voted for previously, what they put into law previously, who is lobbying for them, who's paying for their